My manager screamed at me for serving a hungry child who couldn't pay. I thought I was about to lose everything, until a billionaire walked in, asked for the person who helped his daughter, and handed me the keys to my future. The blood rushed to my ears as Rick's voice boomed across the diner, silencing every breakfast conversation. You know she can't pay, yet you serve her anyway. Do you want your wages docked? His finger jabbed toward my chest, then toward the small yellow-jacketed figure hunched in the corner booth. Time seemed to stop as 30 pairs of eyes swiveled between us, construction workers with forks midair, elderly couples frozen in mid-bite, even Martin, the line cook, peering through the service window. The little girl's shoulders curled inward, her gaze fixed on the untouched egg sandwich I just delivered. The shame radiating from her tiny frame made my chest physically ache. In that moment, I knew every single person in that diner saw me for what Rick wanted them to see, a foolish waitress breaking rules for a charity case. What they couldn't see was the carefully counted quarters and dimes the girl brought each day, or how she watched the door with frightened eyes as she ate. My name is Vera, I'm 27 and a waitress working through night school. This is the story of how I turned a public humiliation into the most unexpected second chance of my life. For 3 years, I'd arrived at Waverly Diner at 5 a.m. to prep for the morning rush, construction crews, teachers, retirees on fixed incomes. The pay was barely enough for my studio apartment and student loans, but the morning regulars made it worthwhile. They remembered my birthday, shared classroom stories, split plates to save money, but always tipped generously. 2 weeks earlier, I'd noticed her for the first time, a girl no older than 10 slipping through the door at precisely 7 a.m. Her yellow jacket hung loose on her small frame, backpack clutched protectively against her chest. Without making eye contact, she'd slide into the farthest booth, and wait, barely visible above the table. Egg sandwich please, she'd whisper, voice so soft I had to lean in to hear. When time came to pay, she'd count out crumpled bills and coins, always coming up short by nearly $2. I covered the difference from my tips and added a glass of milk. Growing bones need calcium, I'd say with a wink. She never responded, but she ate every bite, eyes constantly darting to the door. The pattern continued for 2 weeks. 7 a.m., yellow jacket, quiet order, my discreet help. She never spoke beyond her order, never smiled, never made eye contact. Until today, when Rick had decided to make an example of me. I asked you a question, Vera, Rick demanded, his voice cutting through my frozen shock. Behind him, Danny smirked, already pulling out her phone. I knew my humiliation would be circulating in the staff chat within minutes. She's just a child, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. I can't let her go to school hungry. Not your problem, Rick snapped, loud enough for the entire diner to hear. No more freebies, or it comes from your check. The little girl abandoned her sandwich, scrambling to gather her backpack. Before I could reach her, she was out the door, a flash of yellow disappearing down the street. In my office, now. His cramped back office smelled of cigarettes and cheap cologne. A warning notice lay on his cluttered desk. Sign here, he said without looking up from his invoices. Consider this your first and only warning about unauthorized discounts. Rick, she's just a kid trying to, not our problem, he cut me off. Parents should feed their own kids. Sign it. I took the pen, my hand trembling slightly. I could explain how the girl counted pennies, how her clothes seemed more worn each day, how she always arrived alone. Instead, I simply signed. Don't make me regret keeping you on, Rick added as I turned to leave. Plenty of people would take your job tomorrow. That night, I lay awake in my studio apartment, replaying the day's events. I couldn't afford to lose this job. Rent was due, student loans weren't going anywhere. And waitressing positions that accommodated night classes were hard to find. But the thought of turning the girl away made me physically ill. Morning arrived with a decision. I would pay for the girl's breakfast myself in full, keeping the transaction completely separate from the diner's books. Rick couldn't object to my serving a legitimate paying customer, but 7 a.m. came and went with no sign of the yellow jacket. By 7:30, I found myself checking the door every few minutes, worry gnawing at my stomach. Had Rick's public humiliation scared her away? Was she sick? Or worse, had something happened to her? At 8:15, the diner's atmosphere shifted dramatically. Conversation died mid-sentence as a gleaming black SUV with tinted windows pulled up directly in front of the entrance. 2 men in suits emerged first, scanning the area before opening the rear door. A tall man in an impeccably tailored black suit stepped out, his presence commanding attention without effort. 2 more suited men flanked him as he entered. The breakfast crowd fell silent. Forks paused mid-bite. Rick emerged from the back office, eyes widening. He hurried forward, smoothing his rumpled shirt. Good morning, sir, welcome to Waverly Diner. How can we help you? His voice had transformed into something obsequious I'd never heard before. The man's sharp, intelligent eyes swept across the diner, ignoring Rick completely. I'm looking for the person who's been helping my daughter, he stated, his deep voice controlled, but revealing nothing about his intentions. I froze by the coffee station, pitcher in hand. The 4 bodyguards positioned themselves strategically around the diner, their posture professional, but unmistakably vigilant. Rick's smile faltered. I'm not sure I understand. My daughter, the man repeated calmly. 10 years old, yellow jacket. She's been coming here for breakfast. I set down the coffee pitcher and stepped forward, my heart hammering against my ribs. That's me, I said quietly. I've been serving her. The man turned, studying my face for a long moment. His expression shifted from scrutiny to something softer, more vulnerable. She hasn't eaten breakfast outside our home since her mother died, he said. You're the first person she's spoken a complete sentence to in 3 years. The diner remained absolutely silent. Even the kitchen sounds had ceased. I didn't know, I whispered. The man approached, extending his hand. Nathan Fraser. Several gasps rippled through the diner. Even I recognized the name, Nathan Fraser, tech investor and philanthropist whose face occasionally graced business magazines.